Hi, this is Wanda Lloyd. Welcome to this episode of our Two Old Chicks podcast. Well, here we are in another episode this summer. My co-host Tina McElroy-Ansa and I we both live in Georgia, in the coastal area. And I hate to leave with the weather, Tina, but it's been hot and steamy and it rains just about every day.
Well, we're both gardeners. So, we don't curse the rain, but I do know that it has been a lot for y'all. But it's funny, we've talked about this before about the weather pattern. We have not gotten nearly as much rain. I would be talking on the phone to you and I could hear the rain and the thunder and the sun would be out here. So the weather pattern comes from the west, right? Comes east. Mm-hmm. And if there's a rain shower, if you look at it, it's like magic. The rain shower goes south, goes north to Savannah, to you, or down south to my little schoolgirls in Jacksonville. And lots of times we don't get it, but in the last 4 or 5 days, rained every day, just like you.
Like you. Well, I'm just glad you have power, because you were out without power a little while ago, just before we were getting ready to record this podcast. 15
minutes, before we started. Exactly. So that kind of surprised me. We don't have a lot of outages here. We have a power station around the corner, and it gets fixed pretty clearly. But you have a number of them. But you're in Savannah where the storms come through.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, except for walking, Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, except for walking Bella a couple of times a day, I'm just staying inside in the air conditioning because it's just way too hot. But I'm getting a lot of rest. I've been relaxing in my recliner more, which you and Shelby and others tell me I need to do, and watching some streaming and on my iPad and coloring, which is, as you know, my favorite pastime when I do relax.
Well, I was just listening to you and thinking how happy Wanda and her family and her friends are to hear her say she's napping in the middle of the day. She actually sent me a text to let me know I've been lying in my recliner all day. I saw this movie and that one. I've been coloring. And don't forget your massager, Wanda. We have a...
I can't forget it. And Tina, I knew you were going to say that tonight. So guess what I brought with me? I brought my massager.
You brought your massager.
For show and tell.
It's small, it's portable, but it's powerful. It really gets in there, especially I was going to say your neck, but it's portable, so you can use it all over your body. As a matter of fact, if the company sends us 10 of them, we'll say the name of it on the show.
That's right. Okay, there we go. Because we have 10 friends that need them. In fact, as you know, I had a little birthday recently. Well, it wasn't a little birthday. It was no birthday is little anymore. So I've been celebrating a little bit. And today I went to lunch with a friend who took me to a birthday lunch, and she had been in the hospital. She had some elective surgery and she's fine. And so I was thinking, just as I was dropping her off at her house, I was thinking, I think there's a massager in her future.
I'm always thinking about, and the one that I have shared, that's why we really should get something from the company. We have shared, I got it as a gift from Dawn Turner, who is going to be, as a matter of fact, teaching the memoir section of workshop for the Sea Island Writers Retreat in November 6th, November 2nd to the 6th. 2022, and you can go to the website SIWR 2022 at
.org.
Yes, .org. Exactly.
Yeah. So Dawn sent you one, and then you sent me one, and then you sent one to somebody else. And then I sent one to Shelby, and then I sent one to somebody else. And this
absolutely, you sent one to your daughter, and she was letting her newlywed hubby use it. We said, no, this is a sister thing. I'm sorry, you'll have to buy him his own. And we all named them too. Wanda's is Angel, and mine is Molly Bailey, who's a little sister of who used to be my massage therapist. So it's been. I gave one to my neighbor for a birthday, and she sent me a picture after I gave it to her, and she sent me a picture of her in the same position that I had left her in about 3 hours before with the massager on her back. So it's a good gift. It's a good gift. But Wanda,
Yeah,
talking about your talking about your birthday, did you do something for yourself?
Well, I did. I went to lunch with a friend on my birthday. I went to lunch a couple of days. I just kind of celebrated for a whole week, really. Went to lunch with a group of Savannah Spelman College alumni a couple of days before my birthday. And then the day after my birthday, I went to the spa and I got my nails and my pedicure. And I just sort of treated myself to just a relaxing week. And then the friend who I went to lunch with today, this is a different week, but she was, as I said, she was recovering. And so today was the first day we had a chance to go celebrate my birthday. So I'm looking forward to more celebrations. If anybody wants to call me and celebrate with me, I'm still in the month of July, hint, hint.
Well, I don't want to say anything, but I still owe Wanda a gift. The gift that I sent her was unavailable, and I didn't get the email saying it was unavailable. So of course I'm asking her, you get anything from Amazon? Get anything from me? Finally, I had to ask her. She said, no, I haven't got one thing. So I still owe you a gift, Wanda. I do know that. It'll be like a birthday, end of summer, celebrating fall, all of that when I give it to you. So Wanda had a good time though, and you deserve to have a good time. It was she said it wasn't a big birthday, but every one of our birthdays now are pretty big.
That's true. That is true. So we have a great show. Tina and I are going to be in discussion about a couple of things. Tina, you've been paying close attention to something important happening in the news. What's on your mind? What's going on?
Well, I've been thinking about Britney Griner. The professional basketball player who has been jailed in Russia for whatever she was jailed for. But of course, I think there's a lot of political, of course, involved in it. But I really am just thinking about her as a woman by herself there in the jail cell. I noticed her hair when she came out for jury. I mean, I just noticed all the things that you think about as a woman and then think about being, kept in another country. And I've seen some people writing about it recently. And I just wanted to say, I agree, if it were, I'm thinking one of the basketball stars, one of the male basketball stars, if it was LeBron, he would have been home a long time ago. That's what I feel. And so I'm just thinking that maybe Black women should sort of raise their voices for Britney. I don't, there are many ways to do it, to write your congressperson, congresswoman, or congressman about it, and demand that something be done, write letters about it, write op-ed page pieces about it. I mean, just sort of raise your voice, ask among your friends, have you thought about Britney Griner? And, do you think you can do something, to amplify her name? I think that's what I'm saying, Wanda, is I think her name just needs to be amplified so that there is some support there. So the White House does know that we Black women have a Britney Griner's back. So that's just something that I wanted to put out there. It's on my heart. And I know that there's some people out listening to us, who feel the same way. So, you can always get in touch with us at our, on our website. But, if you have any ideas or thoughts about that, I'll be happy to engage you in that.
Yeah, on our social media. So, as you know, as our listeners know, we record a few days ahead of time, and this being news, we are just hopeful that something changes before you hear this podcast episode. But I
hope it's outdated. I certainly hope it's outdated. Yeah. And that she's home with her wife, happy, and gets her hair done and is free. That's the biggest thing, that she's free.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll all do that. We'll all say a prayer and raise a voice.
Say a prayer too. Thank you, Wanda. Absolutely. Say a prayer and raise a voice.
Tina and I often see ourselves as a soft place to land for a lot of women going through something, because we've had so many life experiences ourselves. Thus the name of this podcast, Two Old Chicks Who Know a Lot of Shit. So people calling us all the time to ask for advice and wisdom and help to console them. And, quite frankly, we hear from people several times a week who just call us or text us and say, can I have a phone call or a Zoom conference with, and they reach out for our help. I did that last night with one of my mentees. I spent about an hour to an hour and a half. And Tina, I think you spent a few hours with someone recently. So
sure
tell us.
Yeah. What Wanda said was, we are putting out these mother vibes because people are just coming to us for a soft place. And that thrills us, of course. That thrills us, of course. But recently I had a reminder really of how much and how many of us are grieving right now. This is a section of the show that we just, we want to talk about. I recently
I forgot to say, we really want to talk about, well, you just said it, about grieving and just, getting through that grief.
Well, I'll have to tell you, the day that we're recording this happens to be my late husband's birthday. And so it's very meaningful that we're doing this. We didn't plan it that way at all. It just sort of, happened because we've been getting a phone call. But I got a phone call from a little schoolgirl of mine. Actually, I reached out to her. I think we are putting out those vibes because she just crossed my mind. You know how we haven't probably seen each other in 5 years, but we talk on we talk on social media and all of that. And I have a lot of little schoolgirls, but she's one of my special ones. And I just reached out to her a few days ago, and she couldn't talk, but she called me back. And when we talked, I realized that she and I had similar experiences, that that we both had lost our loved ones, our dear our boos, our hearts, our husbands, the love of our lives. And she lost hers about 2 years ago, the way that I lost Janae, and so we ended up talking like 3 hours and 13 minutes. I looked at the phone. I had to find out just how long it was. But in those hours that we talked, I realized how many of us truly are grieving lots of things. We're grieving losses of all things, Wanda. And so, it's I think it's a good show for us to have, and that is the subject of grief. We're going to talk about grief from a personal standpoint, from what we read, what we know, and that's where it is. As I said, I lost Shanae. My husband of 40 something years, 2 years ago in February of 2000. I'm sorry, it was the end of January of 2020. And you have also, and
and I lost my mother in 1997, and I know my grief, as real as it was different from yours, because yours was a spouse, and all grief, we all grieve in different ways. So I handle mine, quietly and alone. I guess because I was busy. I was settling her estate. I was raising a daughter who was 13 at the time. My mother passed away. Working full time as an editor. I was traveling.
Your mother, as a matter of fact.
They were like best friends. My daughter and my mother were best friends. My daughter had spent all her summers since she was about 3 or 4 years old in Savannah with her grandmother. And so they were very, very close. But someone in, I believe it was Hospice Savannah, they sent me, because my mother was cared for the last 2 or 3 weeks of her life by hospice. And they sent me 2 or 3 books. And one of them was The 5 Stages of Grief. I didn't know there were 5 stages, because I really had not lost someone that close to me before. But, so I wanted to just start this conversation, because you and I are going to talk about some tips that you have for grieving. But the 5 stages, for those who, and a lot of people know this already. The first one is denial. I just don't want to believe that she's gone or he's gone. The second one is anger.
Wanda, I went through every single
Did you?
one. And as I went through them, because I knew about them, I would say, oh gosh, now I'm denying, These are real things. I mean, these are really stages that people have studied.
Right.
And nobody escapes them. Nobody escapes
exactly. Exactly. So first is denial. That's okay. So denial, I can't believe she's gone. I can't believe he's gone. The second is anger. How dare she leave me? How dare she leave me with this child to raise? And I'm not quite, for me, I'm not quite ready to, I forgot I had my earphones around my neck. I'm not quite ready to do this by myself. just anger, you know, how
Mm.
dare she,
Oh,
we need to
anger,
settle
yeah.
her estate.
Why did you leave me? That's the big. Why
Yeah,
did you
yeah,
leave me?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then
Uh-huh.
I'm not
Uh-huh.
sure I get the third one, bargaining, because I'm not sure
Yeah,
I
that's
understand
when you
that
start
one.
bargaining with God. Like if you bring him back, I swear I'll be
Oh,
good. If I do
uh-huh.
this, that's the bargaining part.
Even though
And it
you know
sounds,
that's not going to be possible.
of
Even though you
course,
know that's
but
not possible.
that's the stage you find yourself talking to
Hmm.
whatever
Yeah.
power you believe in, and say, okay,
Hmm.
now this, if I do this, you'll do this, and again,
Hmm.
you have to move on to the next stage.
Yeah. Then there's depression, which I know I went through a little bit, you know, just
Yeah.
feeling sad all the time, don't want to talk to anybody, don't want to go anywhere. I had to go to work because I was working, but just, you know, feeling kind of down and lethargic and not
Oh,
wanting
and
to
sometimes,
engage.
not just lethargic and down, but serious clinical depression.
Yeah.
Depression that
Yeah.
needs to be treated. Depression that as people say, oh, get out and enjoy yourself, get out in the fresh air, and all of that. But sometimes you need to talk to somebody, and that's the other thing
Mhm.
we want to encourage you to do.
Yeah.
Reach
Yeah.
out if there's somebody,
So,
whether it's
so, so you're going to
professional
talk about
or
that in a minute. You're going to talk about that in a minute.
okay.
I want to do the fifth one, and that's acceptance. Finally, you accept, you know, okay, I've been through all this denial and anger and bargaining and depression. Now I have to accept this is my lot in life. For me, I had to accept, okay, I'm going to turn 50 soon. My mom's not going to be here, but I'm just going to accept that, you know, it's God's will that she's gone. So then I did not know this until we started thinking about how we were going to talk about this. There's
Mhm.
this there's a book on the sixth stage of grief. It's called Finding Meaning, which you certainly did at some point a few months after Janae passed away. The book is by David Kessler. I don't know anything about David Kessler other than the fact that he sort of wrote this book, and it was published in September 2020, which it was a big year for us. So it's
Mhm.
interesting that it came out there. And so we're going to talk about how hard yet necessary it is to grieve our losses, whether it's a family member or a close friend or a pet or a coworker. It could be a loss of anything, but specifically about losing people we know. So I wanted to sort of start with this, finding meaning, because isn't that what helped you through the early stages of grief after you lost Janae?
Well, it didn't help me through the early stages, because when you're going through those early stages, that's all you're thinking about: denial
Mhm.
and bargaining and and anger and all those things. So each step sort of leads you to feel better. I mean, you're going through things, but when you recognize
Mhm.
them and see what they are and move on to the next one, you kind of say, okay, this is a stage. I'm going through this stage. It's gonna be better. I did tell myself that at
Mhm.
times when I said, I told you that I couldn't go out and for a while and look at and see a married couple or a man and woman together,
Mhm.
especially when they were older, my age. And I would think, look at that old man. He's still alive. Where's Janae? I mean, I would think that all the time. And I
Mhm.
knew in my head, that was ridiculous, but I would literally be, and then I would be very angry if she wasn't talking to him. I'd say, look at her, she's not even paying attention to him. She doesn't even deserve a husband. Those are the
Mhm.
things that you're thinking. But one of the things that you're talking about is the meaningful. I love the sixth stage of grief, because I didn't have meaning in the first stages of my grief, but when I started coming out of it a little bit, and realizing the world, you got to pay bills, you got to, do that kind of thing. I started, realizing that I didn't know the path forward. Janae and I had been together so long that I didn't make decisions because of him, of course, but he was my partner. And I
Mhm.
made decisions, with him about my path forward. And he encouraged me more than anybody to write and to do new things. And so I didn't have that. And I literally would look to see a road, and it would just go nowhere. And I didn't know where I was going. And then I called you one day and
Mhm.
I said, how you doing? I was kind of in the last stages of grief. I went through it very quickly, like months. I'm very grateful for that. Some people are just, mired in grief and they just can't move on. And I moved on.
Well,
So, but I called.
I think though, with that day you called me was the beginning of me helping to pull you out of it.
Oh, well, absolutely. The day that I called you was the day that I found the road ahead. I could see the
Yeah.
road ahead I knew what I was going to do, because that's the day I asked you how you were doing. This was in June 2020, and you said, "Oh, I'm not doing so good," and we talked about what was going on, and the product of that is right behind you, and that's the book, Meeting at the Table: African American Women Talk About Race, Culture, write about race, culture, and community.
Right here,
and on June, I think it was June 12th or June 13th, when we started thinking, well, what are we going to do about everything that's going on in the world? That's what you said. Well, what are we going to do?
Right. This is George Floyd and the coronavirus and all the stuff that was going on. Yeah.
All the stuff. I had just lost Sinead. I mean, all of it. And, other people were doing the same thing. Sinead didn't die of COVID, but, people were just beginning to really lose people in large numbers at that time. And so when you said, what will we do? And we just started thinking, and you and I love to do that. Just, brainstorm and think. We found that out now. We didn't know at the time. And, we came up with the book. And as soon as we did, I had things to do. I was going to be the publisher. I was the co-editor of it. I had to find a cover. I had a purpose. I had a road forward, Wanda. And as I do, that I have not stopped since then. Right. I have not stopped finding a purpose.
Because one thing seems to have led to the other. We did the book, then we did the podcast, then we got virtually on the road talking about the book, and then we were still talking about my memoir coming full circle. Sometimes we teamed up and did some shows on virtually together, and we just never stopped. We never stopped. And now we're doing the retreat, which is going to be in November. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
one purpose Wanda
did
another. One step.
Don't forget, Wanda did her first TEDx talk. So I mean, we are we're two old chicks, but we not only know a lot of shit, we're doing a lot of shit, and we hope that it is powerful and meaningful in the things that we do, especially now as we get older. Wanda and I talk about that all the time, about not leaving a legacy so much. Yes.
Did you still say first TEDx talk? I keep telling you, I did my TEDx talk. I'm done.
Well, hey, I tell you what, let's just see how this story plays out. Okay. That's just me. Folks, we will get back to you when Wanda does the second TED Talk. Because it's I see it, Wanda. I'm sorry. You're gonna wear black and white again. I see you on the stage in a new black and white dress, a new black and white outfit. Oh Lord. Oh, anyway, as you can see, Wanda, I started laughing. We started, she was my person who was pulling me out of this. She was my person who called the next day. Okay, did you call? What's the name about this so-and-so? Wanda is the person who keeps me on track. She's the one who allows me, to go here and there and everywhere and say, okay, now let's bring it back down. If we're going to create something, we got to bring it out. We got to have a chart. We got to know what we're doing. So, Wanda really pulled me out of that. And it, I believe it's Sinead, I believe it, it was all my mother spirits, and all the people said, call Wanda. I didn't hear them say that, but I know they were saying, call Wanda. And you did. You pulled me out of it, helped me create something, and, my partner, and, I felt I had been, sort of your partner in your
in the memoir.
Memoir came out. Yeah. And we were going to go on the road together. Oh gosh, we had plans. We were going to have such a good time going all over the Southeast. That was our plan. And then COVID happened. But by that time, we were it was full tilt. We were on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And one of the things Wanda and I say all the time is that we hope we're models for other women. We really want to be models for other women in their 70s and their 60s. Life is wonderful. Life goes on. You have to make your life. You have to fight to live. All those things that your grandmama and my mama used to say that from one of her, Nellie, you got to fight to live. That's one of her friends told her. And that's the truth. You have to fight to come back from losing somebody. That's the other thing. You can't, I know you're
Tina,
wounded. I was just saying, I know you're wounded and full of sorrow and all the rest, but you can't give up. One of the things is, not reach out to people, but when people reach out to you, be open to them a little bit, because you need somebody. Like I needed Wanda.
I was going to say, from your experience, what are the top 3 or 4 tips you have for people on
Yeah.
how to move forward during these stages of grief and get past it so you can enjoy your life some more.
The way your loved
that.
one would have wanted, the way your loved one would have wanted you to.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness, Sinead wants me to go forward, and I'm blessed to know that. So my tips would be, the first one is everybody grieves differently. Let people grieve the way they want to. Don't be telling folks, all right, it's been a while now. Come on, you're making me sad. You're always so sad. All those things that you say for yourself. Think about the grieving person. Put yourself in the person and think about, I would kind of like to be left alone. And somebody else might want company around. They want family around. They want to see their grandchildren, their children, all that kind of thing. But look and give the grieving person what she needs. I'm just going to use she in all of these. If she wants to be quiet, I wanted to be quiet. I have to tell you a funny story. I couldn't deal with people. That was my way, of grieving. I needed to be quiet. I need to be in the house where they live. All of that. I didn't want to be disturbed at all. And so I put a sign on my. I think Wanda was a little when I did that. But I put a sign on my door saying, "I know y'all love me, but please, I just want to be alone." And
I didn't want to believe it because I didn't see the sign, but you told me about it. I said, Tina, did you really tell people to go away? Basically, that's what you were telling people.
Exactly, but that's what I need. And I would lie in my bedroom sometimes. It was on the front of the house, and I would hear one of the neighborhood guys tell somebody who drove up to my house, "Oh no, she don't want to be bothered." That the sign on the door. And of course, they would walk up to the door, and then when they would walk back to their car, I heard the guy say, "See, I told you she didn't want to be bothered." And so I told Wanda about this, and we were talking one day, and I said, "Hey, what happened to all those cakes and pies and hams, and Coca-Cola, cases of Coca-Colas people supposed to be bringing to, the house of the deceased?" And Wanda said, "Tina, you can't have it both ways. You can't put a sign on your door saying, 'Stay away,' and expect to have hams and pies and."
You sure did.
It was so funny. Even in my grief, I had to laugh, Wanda. I had to laugh. It was so funny. It's true. So when you decide, if you're grieving and you decide, that's the way you want it, let people know. But you're able to.
So what about people who want to talk?
That's what I was going to say. Some people even change their minds. 2 months, 3 months in, they might just want to tell the story. That was what happened with my little schoolgirl who called me recently. 3 hours and 13 minutes, and she had to talk. She told the stories over and over because you have to get that out. And she knew that she had found a safe place for me. So the first thing is to respect the person who's grieving. Give them what they want. Ask them, you want to be alone? You want me to come over? Do things for them. If you love them, do things for them. Like that casserole is a good idea. I mean, truly, if you don't have to think about, if you have family, and you don't have to think about dinner for one night, and you can go in your room and be quiet while doing those kinds of thoughtful things, picking up the kids from school, or, taking the kids for a weekend so they can, think about the person and what you can do for them. That's the first thing. The second thing is just like you said, at some point, it's time to come on out. At some point, it's time to be pulled out. And your loved ones kind of know the best thing. Your best friend probably knows better than your family, because your family wants you to come on. Your family wants you to be who they want you to be. That's just family. But your friends will, have some distance, and they can give you what you want. Also, if you are grieving, take some steps to feel better. Think about that. What steps are you going to take to feel better? I felt better just calling you, but you had been in real close contact with me, before Janae passed. And you and your husband, my brother, Junior, have continued to be my family and continue to, care about me, and those kinds of things. I've had folks in the neighborhood knock on the door and say, "I know you need some help in there. You want me to do something back there in the yard?" And that's a kind thing to do. I think I'm trying to think of even, as I said, if it goes on too long, your friend, your family, try to get them to come out. So there's something they enjoy. If they enjoy church, say I come by and pick you up for church service if you want to go to church service on Sunday. Those are, I'm like you. I'm not going to any malls, but if you want to go out somewhere, and have a cup of coffee.
I have to explain this. I tweeted yesterday after this awful situation where there was another shooting in a mall, and I tweeted and just said, "I'm done with malls. I'm just done." So that's the reference that Tina's making.
But we can't be done with everything, but but just to take somebody out, just to get, what you were talking about earlier about being in the house because it's so hot. Do you know what I realized this week? I have not been going out in my garden, and I missed fresh air. I literally, was a little logy. You know how you're a little behind, like one beat behind everybody else. I kind of felt that way. And I realized I hadn't had, as much as I get out, Wanda, I hadn't had enough fresh air. So that's the other thing. Get people out in the sun. Let them be in the sun. Even a walk in the park, or go sit by a duck pond, or there are all kinds of ways to get people out without putting pressure on them.
Right. Yeah. I have a neighbor. She's in her 90s, and she has round-the-clock caregivers who come and these are nurses who come and stay with her. And
I know the neighbor you're talking about.
It gives me such pleasure every now and then. And I saw her yesterday, but they just get a couple of lawn chairs and come out in the front yard and just sit. And she just sits there and soaks up the sun and talks to the people as we're walking our dogs, just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" She lost her husband a few years ago as well. And I don't think she's out there for grieving, but I hear what you're saying about being outside. It is a good thing to get outside.
Just being outside, it really does help. The other thing I do have another caveat, and that is this. I'm going to be honest. This is not the time to proselytize. This is not the time to say, "Oh well, if he had found Christ, or if he had gone to this religion, or if he had stopped drinking, or if he had stopped, it's over. It's over. It's done. I mean, you can't get no doner than dead, okay? And so it's done. Leave the person who's grieving and leave the person who's dead alone. If they want to find their own God, let them find their God. Let them find their faith. Let them rely on things. If you have a prayer for somebody, I would give it to them. I would say, I have a little prayer for you. You want to pray with me? That's another wonderful thing. If you're a person of faith, of any kind, call somebody in the middle of the day, around lunchtime while you're working, and just say, "Hey, I just thought about you. Want to say a little prayer with me?" And that person, of course, wants to, because she's grieving, and she loves the fact that you call to look out for her. So the things is to look out for people. Don't let them go too long in the grieving, but let them grieve the way they want to. Don't say, this is impossible, but family, try not to say the inappropriate, worst thing that you could possibly say to people when they're grieving. That's just family, huh? That's just family. But people, keep people's hearts in mind. That's what I would say. Keep people's hearts in mind. Their hearts have been broken.
Yeah.
My heart is still broken. But doing something, my heart's still broken, always will be. But doing what we've been doing and starting things and teaching, helping other people write. You help other people publish, Wanda. We publish people for the first time. Got them, got them, their what do you call it? Not fidelius. What is it? They're propers. They, getting their propers so they can, go into the world of writing. I've already published something. So I mean, we've done, all kinds of things. I am not a organization person, and you are. Like you said, earlier when your family were joining us, my family, we're not. But I've seen so many wonderful and kind things done by I'll say deltas because that's what you are, but by all the Black women sororities. I mean, y'all all have a mission of service. And I've seen such kindness that you've done, not just to your sisters, but to but to your friends. So I guess that's what I would really leave you with. Be kind to the person. If you're grieving, be kind to yourself. And if you're a friend of someone or a family member of someone who's grieving, lead with your heart. Think about them. Think about how their heart is broken and what you can do to help.
Well, thank you. We have not had this conversation among ourselves until we started thinking about doing it here. And actually, it was because you were telling me about your little schoolgirl and you had this long conversation with her and you started going on and on and on about grief. And I was like, Tina, stop talking right now. This is our next podcast because we try not to overtalk our podcast until we have them. So we come with the passion that we have for a subject. So I appreciate it because you and I have not really talked about your own grieving process, but it does my heart good to know that I was able to help you get through that and get past.
You're not past it. You were a mighty part of that, sweetie. I so appreciate that. I so appreciate it.
Well, I want to end this conversation with a quote that I've heard many times before by someone that Tina and I both respect a whole lot. And that's Maya Angelou, the writer, the actress, the singer. She just did it all. But one of her quotes, the icon, the cultural icon. And she said, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Before we end this podcast, Tina and I want to drop some wisdom, as if our last discussion wasn't wisdom enough, huh, Tina?
Really? We could just let that be the wisdom, let that sink in. But we got a lot to share.
Yeah, well, I got a quick one to share. And it has nothing, well, it kind of does have to do with grieving. My wisdom is sort of related because it has to do with buying cards. And, you know, we have seasons in our life where many years ago our friends were getting married and we buy wedding cards, and they were having babies and we buy baby cards.
Oh, cards.
They graduated. Cards. Yes.
Okay.
Cards. Yes.
Cards.
Yeah. And then the kids would graduate from high school and college, and we were always spending money on cards. So now we're in this season where we are buying quite a few, at least I am, cards for people who are grieving, because we're in this season of our life. And because I am a member of these organizations that you mentioned, my church, my sorority, and a few other organizations, we generally tend to support each other with cards. And so my daughter the other day was looking for a birthday card, I think it was, and she was about to go to one of the big box drugstores and pay, an exorbitant. I said, Shelby, go to the dollar store. They have Hallmark cards. I mean, they have mahogany. The black mahogany line at the dollar store, and it costs anywhere from 50 cents to $1 a card. And so that's my wisdom today. You can get almost the same quality of card. The paper might be a little thinner, but the sentiment is there. I haven't compared them, but the little poetry that you see in cards is generally the same thing you would see in the expensive cards. It costs $5.99, $6.99, $7.99 in the drugstore. You can get that at the dollar store. So that's my wisdom. Go to the dollar store and get those cards. What's your wisdom?
Well, it's what you say in the card usually. That's what people want to keep, and that's what people remember. They remember the sentiment and the fact that now there are some people who flip that card over to see, how about you? What? We don't want them as friends. Exactly. We don't even want to be sending them cards. That's a good wisdom, Wanda. Mine is well, tell you the truth, I swear, after we've had a pretty intense week with the Seattle Writers Retreat and traveling and all the rest. And so as I told you earlier, I don't even know if I have any wisdom left, but I'm just kidding, because
I know you do. Yeah.
I'm an old chick and I got some wisdom. And that is, it's part of, it comes out of this story of grief we've been talking about, this subject of grief. Now is the time. You can grieve all you want, but now is the time to act. Now is the time. Call your folks, forgive your sister. Surprise your boo with a kiss and a hug and one of his special treats. A candy bar. It could be anything, just to let him or her know that you're thinking about them. Appreciate your garbage collector. I mean, what would happen if we didn't have, garbage was power. We see that in New York when they have garbage strikes. What would happen? Consider the needs of the newlywed and the needs of the widowed. Consider both ends, the young and the old. And today, be kind. Today is the time to be kind. Tomorrow is not promised to us.
That's right. That is true. Okay, now, Tina, you just left yourself wide open for something. Remember when I came to visit you the first time after Janae passed, which was about a year ago, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And there was a knock on the door, and it was one of the garbage collectors. And you told him to go away.
This
Not
man,
exactly.
wait, Mom, I want to hope we have time for this because this is too good. The guy, he knocked on the door, and I thought, what, and they always have been very good about, taking garbage, all that. But he knocked on the door to ask me, what, did I need
He wanted
something?
to cut the grass. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because my front of my yard is always looks like Walden Pond in Doonesbury, but it's always grass growing. It's almost a pond out there, forming. And that's what he asked. And then he said, well, you might need some.
He said he has a side business. I think he said he has a side business.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Fine.
He has a side business.
Well, he may have a business.
He had a car. He gave me his car. But what he asked me was, was I single? And I said, no. I said, not really. I said, I'm a widow. And I said, besides that, how old are you? And he said, 45. I said, I'm 70 something. He said, well, that ain't too much. I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. I kept the car because it's just funny because every time I pick it up, I remind Wanda about this guy. I have not seen him. That's not true. I saw him a few times and I made sure that the shades were closed. Yeah. 45. Oh, that ain't too much. I said, oh, it's too much for me, mister. Oh my goodness.
That was a funny scene. I was just sitting on the sofa watching it all. I said, Tina, you gonna have him cut your grass? She said, hell no.
Because he wanted to do more than cut my grass. I keep doing air quotes, y'all, around that. That's so funny, Wanda. Yeah, be kind, but don't be too kind, okay?
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Lord,
listen, we've had
in spite of the what? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's good to laugh. I was saying it's good to laugh.
That's what I was going to say. In spite of the conversation we just had about grief, it's good that we're ending this with laughter. And so I appreciate that. Absolutely. So I want to say thank you for joining us for this episode of Two Old Chicks Who Know a Lot of Shit. If you're on social media, we want you to share your reactions with us if you can. And if you have ideas, we keep saying this to y'all. Y'all don't believe us, but if you have ideas, go ahead and share them because you never know, or ideas for future guests or topics. You can let us know on Instagram or Twitter.
Oh yeah, we're both writers and editors. We'll snatch up a good idea in a minute. So, please give us some ideas. Also remember that the collection of essays that we talked about earlier, Meeting at the Table, African American Women Write on Race, Culture, and Community, is available for sale at downsouthpress.com. Again, that's downsouthpress.com. And until the next time, be safe, be well, be gentle with yourself and with others, and love and peace.
Bye-bye, everybody. Love.